Lena was a 12-year-old girl who lived in a tiny house at the edge of the city. Her home was cramped with peeling walls and a small kitchen that smelled faintly of old bread and damp clothes. She shared the space with her mother and younger brother, who was just 6 years old. Despite the challenges of their small home, Lena never complained. Her spirit was bright, and her eyes shone with curiosity and hope. Every morning she woke up before the sun rose to help her mother prepare for the day. They had little money, and most days Lena had to carry heavy bags of groceries or sweep dusty floors in nearby houses to earn a few coins. She wore old shoes that had holes near the toes, and her dress had patches on the elbows, but she moved with a grace that hid the poverty she lived in. She loved school and dreamed of becoming a teacher. One day she wanted to teach children like herself who lived in small homes with no toys and little food. Lena's mornings were busy and filled with long walks from one street to another. She would carefully balance a basket of fruits or a bag of bread on her head, while weaving through the crowds of people who were mostly in a hurry and barely noticed anyone else. Her mother always reminded her to be careful and to watch out for the streets that could be crowded and dangerous. But Lena had learned to navigate the paths with caution and confidence. Her little brother sometimes joined her for short distances, and she would hold his hand tightly, guiding him around puddles and loose stones. She loved him dearly and thought of ways to make his life happier, even if they had so little. That morning the city was noisy with the sound of honking cars and shouting vendors. The smell of fried food mixed with the smell of dust from the road. Lena walked steadily, carrying a bag of vegetables she had just delivered to a small family nearby. She was tired, but she felt proud because she knew she had helped her mother earn a few more coins that would buy rice or milk for the next few days. As she walked, she noticed a man staggering near the curb. His suit was torn and dusty, and he looked as if he could fall at any moment. Lena's eyes widened as she saw him clutch his chest and bend forward. She hesitated for a second, wondering if she should help or just continue on her way, but something inside her heart told her that she could not leave him like that. She stepped closer and asked in a soft voice, "Are you okay, sir?" The man did not respond. His eyes were half closed, and his breathing sounded shallow. Lena could feel the panic rising inside her small chest. She looked around, hoping someone else would help, but the street was crowded, and people were walking past without noticing the man. She realized she had to act quickly. She remembered the first aid lesson her teacher had given her at school about helping someone who is hurt or feeling faint. Lena gently touched his shoulder and said, "It is okay, I am here, I will help you." Slowly she guided him to sit down against the curb and carefully offered him a sip of water from her small bottle. He tried to speak, but only a weak sound came out. Lena held the bottle for him and encouraged him to take small sips. Her hands trembled slightly, but she forced herself to stay calm. She could see the beads of sweat on his forehead, and the color of his face was pale. She whispered, "Don't worry, sir, help is coming soon. I will not leave you." At that moment she heard someone in the crowd finally call an ambulance, and Lena waved to guide them toward the man. She stayed close to him, holding his hand gently. She whispered words of encouragement, telling him to keep breathing. Slowly the car horns and voices in the street faded in her mind. As she focused only on helping him, she thought about how fragile life could be, and how quickly someone could need help in a world where most people were too busy to notice. Lena never imagined that one day she would be the one saving someone she could not even fully understand. She continued to offer small words of comfort, telling him that everything would be fine and that he would be safe soon. When the paramedics arrived, she carefully explained what had happened and what she had done. She stayed nearby, watching them lift him onto the stretcher. She felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Her arms ached from holding the man, and her feet were sore from walking all morning, but she did not care because she knew she had done the right thing. After the ambulance drove away, Lena took a deep breath and tried to calm the rapid beating of her heart. She looked around at the busy street and felt a strange sense of pride. Even though no one seemed to notice her, she whispered to herself, "It was okay, I helped someone today." Her small act of courage felt big in her heart. She resumed her walk through the crowded streets with her groceries in her hands, feeling more determined than ever. She thought about her dreams and how she wanted to make a difference in the world, no matter how small she was or how little she had. Lena walked past the bakery and waved to the owner, who always gave her a small piece of bread. Her mother had told her that kindness was like a light that could shine even in the darkest places. Lena felt that light inside her. She knew that even if she never became rich or famous, she could still make a difference in the lives of people she met. She remembered the smile of the man who had looked at her with weak eyes before she helped him. She imagined him getting better and going back to his life. She wondered if he would ever remember her name, or if she would just be a small shadow in his memory, but she felt content because she knew she had done what was right. She thought about her little brother, and how she would tell him the story one day about how even a small girl could be brave and help someone in need. The sun was high in the sky, and the city felt warmer as she walked, her dress flapping in the wind and her patched shoes carrying her forward. Lena felt the strength of her own courage filling her with hope. She knew that life would be difficult and full of challenges, but she also knew that one small act of kindness could ripple across the lives of people in ways she could not even imagine. She smiled to herself and whispered, "I can do this." The next morning Lena woke up to the soft rays of sunlight coming through the small cracks in her window. She yawned and stretched her tiny arms, feeling the soreness from the previous day, but also a strange excitement in her chest. She thought about the man she had helped yesterday, and wondered if he was safe and comfortable in the hospital. Her mother was already in the kitchen preparing a small breakfast of bread and tea. Lena helped her little brother wash his face and comb his hair. She noticed the hope in his eyes when he looked at her, as if she was a hero, and she smiled, even though her stomach felt empty from hunger. She whispered softly to him, "Eat slowly and share with me." He nodded and took small bites, knowing that every coin Lena earned was precious today. Lena had more errands to run. She had to deliver a basket of fruits to the old woman who lived near the city fountain, and then sweep the floors of a small shop that sold clothes and shoes. She gathered her things and left the house, stepping carefully over the uneven stones of the path. Her feet hurt from yesterday, but she ignored the pain because she knew every step she took was for her family, and for the little sense of dignity she carried in her heart. As she walked, she noticed the busy street had more people than usual. The sound of cars, buses, and bicycles filled the air, and the smell of fried food mixed with the scent of flowers from the small stalls lining the sidewalks. Lena navigated through the crowd with ease, her eyes alert for danger, and her mind focused on her tasks. She balanced the basket of fruits on her head, and felt a small thrill of accomplishment. When she reached the old woman's house, the woman opened the door slowly, her face wrinkled and kind. She smiled at Lena, and said, "Good morning, child. I have been waiting for you." Lena returned the greeting, and carefully set down the basket. She helped the woman pick out the ripest fruits and arranged them neatly in the basket. The woman looked at Lena with gratitude, and said, "Your hands are gentle and careful." Lena nodded quietly, feeling proud. She accepted the small coins the woman gave her, and placed them carefully in her worn-out purse. She felt the weight of each coin as if it carried her courage from yesterday. In her mind she replayed the moment when she had helped the man collapse on the street. She remembered the weak sound of his voice, the sweat on his forehead, and the fear in his eyes. She wondered if he remembered her face, or if he was already forgetting the small girl who had cared enough to stop for him. She shook her head gently, trying not to dwell too much on it, because she had more work to do, and the city did not wait for anyone. Lena thanked the old woman, and continued her way to the shop. She entered, and began sweeping the floor. The shopkeeper was a tall man with a kind face. He often gave Lena small smiles and sometimes offered her leftover pastries. She enjoyed sweeping the floor while imagining she was cleaning a palace. She moved carefully so she would not disturb the items on the shelves. She thought about the man in the suit again, and wondered what kind of life he lived, if he had a family, or if he felt lonely. She realized that even though he looked rich and important, he needed help like anyone else, and that made her feel connected to him in a strange way. She finished sweeping, and the shopkeeper gave her a small coin and a warm smile. Lena felt her heart swell with pride, and she tucked the coin into her purse. She thanked him and stepped out into the busy streets again. The sun was higher now, and the heat made the air shimmer. She could feel the sweat on her forehead, but she did not mind because she was determined to finish all her errands today. She thought about how small acts of kindness could ripple into something bigger. Even though she was just a 12-year-old girl, she felt that her actions mattered in a city that often seemed too busy to notice anyone else. As she walked past the park, she noticed children playing with a small ball. Their laughter filled the air and made her heart light. For a moment she stopped and watched them, remembering her own childhood dreams. She had wanted to have toys and games, and yet she felt no sadness because she realized she had the courage and heart to make a difference in ways bigger than toys. She smiled and continued on her path. Her next stop was the hospital. She had heard from the ambulance driver that the man she had helped was in stable condition. She approached the reception, nervously hoping she could see him. She explained politely that she was the girl who had helped him yesterday. The nurse looked surprised, and then smiled warmly. She said, "Yes, you can see him. He is awake and resting." Lena felt her heart beat faster as she was guided to the room. She entered quietly and saw the man lying on the bed. He looked pale but more comfortable than she remembered. His eyes opened when he noticed her, and a small smile appeared on his face. Lena felt a mix of relief and curiosity. She approached slowly and asked softly how he was feeling. He nodded and said, "I am feeling better thanks to you." Lena's eyes widened. She felt her chest swell with pride. She realized that the courage she had shown yesterday had saved a life, and that feeling made every hardship she had endured seem smaller. He reached out his hand weakly, and Lena held it gently. She listened as he spoke about his work, his life, And how grateful he was to her. She noticed tears in his eyes and wondered if he had never experienced such care before. She did not respond with words because she felt that his gratitude was enough, and that the quiet moment of connection mattered more than anything else. She stayed there for some time, helping him drink water and making sure he was comfortable. The nurse smiled at her and whispered softly, "He is lucky to have someone like you." Lena felt a warmth in her heart. She thought about how life could bring people together in the most unexpected ways. She realized that even though she was small and poor, she had something powerful in her heart that could change the lives of others. She remembered her mother's words about kindness being like a candle that could shine in the dark. She felt that candle burn brightly inside her today. She did not notice the passing of time. She only focused on the man she had helped and the hope she could give to someone who had seemed so fragile. She felt a sense of purpose growing inside her that she had never felt before, and she knew that her life, though filled with challenges, had meaning because of moments like this. As she left the hospital, she thought about how the world seemed big and cold, but that one act of courage and kindness could bring warmth into it. She walked home slowly, carrying the quiet pride in her heart and the coins she had earned from her morning errands. She looked at the city around her and saw not just the noise and the rush but the possibilities and the ways in which she could make a difference. Lena felt stronger and braver than ever before, and she whispered to herself that no matter what happened she would continue to help and care for others, even if no one noticed. She was determined to live with courage and kindness in her heart, and to make each day meaningful in ways that mattered beyond money or fame. She arrived home to her mother and little brother, who greeted her with smiles and hunger in their eyes. She shared the bread she had bought and the coins she had earned. She told them stories of the small adventures of the day, and they listened with admiration. Lena felt that the day, though hard and tiring, had been one of the best of her life because she had touched someone's life and felt the quiet power of doing the right thing. The next day, Lena woke up early as always. The sun was barely rising, and the streets were quiet except for the soft footsteps of people heading to work. She stretched her tired arms and looked at her small bedroom. The walls were peeling, and the floor was uneven, but she did not mind because this small room held all the warmth she had from her family. She helped her mother sweep the floor and prepare a small breakfast of bread and tea. She noticed the careful way her mother arranged everything so that nothing would go to waste. Her little brother, Amir, was already dressed and playing quietly with a small piece of string he had tied into loops. Lena smiled at him and whispered, "One day we will have better toys and better clothes." He nodded shyly and looked at her with hope. She kissed his forehead before putting on her patched dress and worn-out shoes, ready for the day ahead. Lena had a long list of errands today. She had to deliver groceries to several families, clean a small shop, and help a neighbor carry water from the well. Her bag felt heavy on her shoulder, but she balanced it carefully while stepping through the crowded streets. She noticed people rushing past without noticing her, and she felt a small pang of loneliness for a moment, but quickly reminded herself that her courage and kindness mattered more than their attention. As she walked, she thought about the man she had saved 2 days ago. She wondered if he was thinking about her, and if he would ever remember the small girl who had cared enough to stop for him. She shook her head gently because she knew it was not important to be remembered. She only wanted to help. She arrived at the first house and carefully delivered the groceries. The family greeted her warmly, and Lena felt a little sense of pride as they thanked her. She noticed the gratitude in their eyes, and it reminded her that small acts could make a difference in ways words could not always express. She continued her journey, stopping to help an elderly man cross the street when a car sped by too close for comfort. She held his hand firmly and guided him safely to the other side. He smiled at her and said, "Thank you, child." Lena felt a warmth in her heart. She realized that each kind gesture was a thread that wove her small life into the lives of many others, and though she was poor, she carried something richer than wealth in her heart. Her next stop was the small clothing shop. She entered quietly and began sweeping the floors. The shopkeeper, Mr. Hassan, was already arranging the new shipments of clothes. He nodded at her and said, "Thank you for coming early." Lena smiled and focused on her task. She imagined herself cleaning a palace and arranging treasures. She moved carefully so that nothing would be disturbed. She thought about the man in the suit again and imagined how brave it must have been for him to trust a small girl like her. She whispered softly, "I hope you are okay." As she swept the floor, she thought about her own dreams and how one day she wanted to teach children in schools. She imagined standing in a bright classroom with children listening to her and feeling inspired. She felt the energy of that dream pushing her forward, making her chores feel lighter and her steps steadier. After finishing in the shop, she earned a few coins which she placed carefully in her purse. She thanked Mr. Hassan and stepped back into the busy street. She walked toward the neighbor's house to help carry water from the well. The path was long and the sun was high in the sky. She felt the heat on her skin, but She did not complain. She balanced the heavy buckets and thought about how even the heaviest burdens could be carried with patience and determination. When she reached the well, she saw her neighbor struggling with the last bucket. Lena hurried forward and took it gently from her. She felt the strain in her arms, but she smiled knowing she was helping someone in need. Her neighbor looked at her with gratitude and said, "You are an angel." Lena shook her head softly and said, "I am just helping." She filled the buckets with water and carefully carried them to the house. She felt proud of herself, not because of the praise, but because she knew she was doing the right thing. The journey home was long and tiring. Her feet ached and her arms were sore from the heavy buckets, but she did not mind because every step she took reminded her of the courage and strength she had within her. She thought about her mother and little brother and how they relied on her. She whispered, "I will do my best to make our lives better." As she reached the small street leading to her home, she noticed a black car slowly moving near the corner. She paused and looked closer. She felt her heart skip a beat. It was the man she had saved 2 days ago. He was stepping out of the car with a kind expression on his face. Lena froze for a moment, unsure if she should approach him. He smiled warmly and waved at her. She walked forward slowly, her heart beating fast as he came closer and spoke softly, "Are you Lena?" She nodded and whispered, "Yes, sir." He smiled and said, "I wanted to see you and thank you again." Lena felt her eyes widen. She had never expected to see him again, especially in person. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope and handed it to her. She took it carefully and opened it. Her hands trembled as she saw a note inside along with a small card with money. She looked up at him, confused and overwhelmed. He said softly, "You saved my life, Lena, and I will never forget your courage." She felt tears welling up in her eyes, not because of the money but because someone so important had noticed her small act of kindness. She clutched the envelope tightly and whispered, "Thank you, sir." He knelt down to her level so that he was closer to her eyes and whispered something that made her heart ache with emotion. He said, "You have a heart braver than anyone I have ever known. Never forget how strong and wonderful you are." Lena felt tears streaming down her cheeks. She could not speak. She felt a warmth in her heart that she had never felt before. She realized that even though she was just a poor little girl, she could make a difference in someone's life, and that courage and kindness were treasures far greater than wealth. The man smiled at her once more and slowly walked back to his car. Lena watched him leave, feeling a mixture of pride, joy, and disbelief. She held the envelope close and walked home thinking about everything that had happened. She felt the streets and the city in a new way. She noticed the small acts of kindness happening around her. Even though most people did not see them, she realized that the world could be full of hope if only people were brave enough to care. She arrived home to her mother and little brother, who were waiting anxiously. She handed them the small coins she had earned and told them about the man who had thanked her. She did not mention the envelope at first because she wanted to savor the moment. In her heart, she helped her mother cook a small meal and shared it with Amir. She watched his face light up as he ate and felt a deep satisfaction knowing she had made their lives a little better. Lena sat near the window after the meal and looked at the city. The sun was setting and the sky glowed softly with pink and orange hues. She thought about the man she had saved and the courage that had grown inside her heart. She realized that life was not just about the struggles or the poverty she faced, but about the choices she made and the strength she discovered within herself. She whispered to the sky that she would continue to be brave and kind, and that one day she would help even more people in ways she could not imagine. She felt a sense of purpose filling her small heart, and knew that even the smallest girl could shine brightly in a world that often seemed dark and indifferent. She hugged her little brother tightly, and whispered to him, "One day we will be brave and help others together." He smiled and hugged her back, and Lena felt a quiet joy knowing that courage and kindness were already growing in both of their hearts, and that no matter what tomorrow would bring, she was ready to face it with hope and determination. The morning sun rose slowly over the city, and Lena woke up feeling a mixture of excitement and curiosity. She stretched her small arms and looked around her tiny room. The walls were still cracked and the floor uneven, but today her heart felt lighter than usual. She remembered the man from the previous day and the kind words he had whispered to her. She had not been able to stop thinking about them through the night, and a small spark of hope had grown inside her. She helped her mother in the kitchen, preparing the morning tea and breaking bread for her little brother Amir, who ate quietly while listening to her talk about the errands she would do today. Lena felt proud as she gathered her small bag filled with bread, fruits, and a few coins she had saved from previous work. She kissed her mother and whispered, "I will be careful and helpful as always," and her mother nodded with a soft smile, urging her to be strong and careful. As Lena stepped outside, the cool morning breeze brushed her face. She inhaled deeply, feeling the world awake around her. The streets were slowly filling with people going about their routines. The sound of carts, bicycles, and distant voices created a rhythm that Lena had learned to move with gracefully. She balanced her bag on her shoulder and walked quickly yet carefully to her first stop. The old woman, who always welcomed her warmly, was waiting at the door. Lena greeted her with a smile and helped arrange the fruits in neat baskets. The old woman watched her with admiration, and said, "You have a heart full of care." Lena nodded shyly, feeling warmth spread through her chest. She collected the coin she had earned, and continued to her next errand. Sweeping the shop floor, Lena moved carefully, her hands brushing against the smooth clothes. She imagined herself as a guardian of treasures, keeping everything perfect and in place. She thought about the man in the suit again, and wondered how different his life was from hers. She imagined his large home, his important work, and yet she knew that a moment of fear and need had made him just as human as anyone else. She whispered softly, "I hope you are doing well." Her thoughts drifted to the hospital as she finished her sweeping and earned a small coin. She tucked it carefully in her purse and walked briskly toward the hospital. She felt nervous yet excited about seeing the man again. She wondered if he would remember her, and what he might say. She imagined many scenarios and prepared herself to be brave. As she entered the hospital, she felt the cool air from the fans and the faint smell of antiseptic. Lena approached the nurse at the reception politely and explained that she had helped the man. The nurse looked surprised and then smiled warmly. "You may see him, he is awake and resting." Lena thanked her and followed the corridor filled with soft lights and the quiet sound of people moving about. She reached the room and saw the man sitting by the window. He looked healthier and calmer than the day she had saved him. He noticed her immediately, and a gentle smile spread across his face. Lena felt her heart beat faster as she approached slowly. He said softly, "Lena, it is so good to see you again." She nodded, and whispered, "It is good to see you too, sir." He reached out his hand, and she held it gently, feeling the warmth and strength within it. He spoke about how much he appreciated her courage and care, and how it had given him a chance to recover. She listened quietly, feeling her chest swell with pride and gratitude. She realized that her actions had truly mattered in ways she had never imagined. He motioned for her to sit nearby, and spoke of his life, his work, the long hours, the responsibilities, and the loneliness that sometimes came with it. Lena listened attentively, feeling connected to him despite the difference in their worlds. She offered him small sips of water, and adjusted his pillow gently, making sure he was comfortable. He looked at her with eyes full of emotion and whispered, "I could have been lost yesterday, but you saved me." Lena felt tears prick her eyes, not from fear, but from the overwhelming sense of meaning and value she had found in helping someone in need. She realized that even though she was a poor girl living in a small house with very little, she carried something precious that money could never buy. The man reached into his pocket and brought out a small envelope. He handed it to her, saying, "Please take this as a token of my gratitude." Lena hesitated but finally accepted it carefully. She opened it slowly and found a note and a card with money, far more than she had ever seen. She looked up at him, her eyes wide with surprise and confusion. He smiled gently and said, "I want you to have this, but it is not just for the money. It is for your courage, your heart, and the kindness you showed." Lena felt a lump in her throat. She clutched the envelope to her chest and whispered, "Thank you, sir." He knelt down to be closer to her level, his eyes soft and filled with sincerity. He said, "Lena, you have a heart stronger than any treasure. You will always have the power to change lives. Never forget how brave and wonderful you are." Lena's tears fell freely, and she could not speak. The emotions were too strong. She felt warmth and hope fill her small heart. She realized that being noticed and appreciated for who she was mattered more than anything else. She thought of her mother and little brother, and how their lives could change because of the courage and kindness she carried within her. The man smiled once more and whispered softly, "I will never forget you." Lena, she nodded, holding the envelope tightly against her heart. She realized that this moment would stay with her forever. It was not the money that made her cry, but the recognition of her courage, the value of her actions, and the kindness someone showed in return. She knew that even small acts could create waves of change in the world, and that her life, though humble, had meaning. She left the hospital feeling stronger and braver. The city streets seemed different now. She noticed the small details, the acts of kindness happening around her, and felt a connection to everything. Lena walked slowly toward home, thinking about how her life had shifted in just a few days. She imagined her mother and little brother's faces as she shared her story, and the envelope she had received. She felt a sense of pride and hope for the future. The sun was higher now, casting golden light on the buildings and the pavement. Lena paused to breathe deeply and felt the world around her alive with possibility. She thought about all the people she could help, all the moments she could make better with her courage and kindness. She smiled to herself and whispered, "I will continue to be brave and helpful because that is who I am and who I want to be." She arrived home and found her mother and Amir waiting with curious eyes. She handed them the small coins she had earned and shared the story of the man who had thanked her. She carefully hid the envelope for now, wanting to keep the special memory close to her heart. She helped her mother prepare a simple meal and watched her little brother eat with delight. Lena felt a sense of warmth and satisfaction knowing she had made a difference, not just for the man but for her family too. As the evening approached, Lena sat by the window looking at the sunset. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink. She reflected on her life, her courage, And the moments that had brought her here, she realized that, even though she was small and poor, she had power inside her to change the lives of others, and that recognition, gratitude, and kindness were treasures beyond measure. She hugged her little brother, and whispered to him, "One day we will help even more people together." He smiled, and hugged her back, and Lena felt a deep joy knowing that her heart and his were ready to face the world with courage, kindness, and hope, and that no matter what challenges came their way, they could overcome them together. The next morning Lena woke up feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. She stretched her small arms and looked around her little room. The walls were cracked and the floor uneven, but today felt different. She remembered the man she had saved and the kind words he had whispered to her. The envelope he had given her still felt warm in her hands, and she could not stop thinking about the impact her small actions had made. She helped her mother in the kitchen, preparing a simple breakfast of bread and tea, while her little brother Amir played quietly with a small string. She smiled at him and whispered, "One day we will have more toys and more joy in our lives." He looked up at her with wide eyes and a soft smile, and nodded as she finished her chores. She carefully gathered her small bag filled with a few coins, some bread, and a basket of vegetables. She kissed her mother and whispered, "I will be careful and helpful today." Her mother nodded with pride and concern, reminding her to stay alert. Lena stepped outside, feeling the cool morning breeze on her face, and took in the busy streets of the city. The sun had not fully risen yet, but the streets were slowly filling with people, and the sound of carts, bicycles, and distant voices created a rhythm she had learned to move with gracefully. She balanced her bag on her shoulder and walked with determination toward her first errand, delivering vegetables to a small family who always greeted her warmly. As she handed them the basket, she noticed the gratitude in their eyes and felt warmth fill her heart. She realized that even the smallest actions could create happiness for others, and that feeling was more valuable than anything else. After completing her errands, she decided to visit the hospital once again to see the man she had saved. She walked carefully through the crowded streets, her mind filled with questions and anticipation. She wondered if he remembered her, and what he might say this time. She imagined many possibilities and tried to prepare herself for any outcome. As she entered the hospital, she felt the familiar cool air and antiseptic smell. She approached the reception politely and explained who she was. The nurse smiled warmly and said, "He is awake and would love to see you." Lena thanked her and followed the corridor to his room. Her heart raced as she reached the door and saw him sitting by the window. He looked healthier and more relaxed than the last time she had seen him. He noticed her immediately and smiled warmly. She felt her chest swell with pride and anticipation. As she approached slowly, he reached out his hand, and Lena held it gently, feeling the warmth and strength in his touch. He said softly, "Lena, I have been thinking about you ever since you helped me, and I wanted to thank you again." Lena nodded quietly, her heart beating fast. She could feel tears welling up in her eyes as he spoke about how her courage had changed his life and given him a chance to continue his work and live fully. She listened quietly, feeling a sense of awe and deep satisfaction knowing that one small girl could have such an impact. He motioned for her to sit nearby and began speaking about his plans and dreams. He shared stories of his family, his work, and his hopes for the future. Lena listened attentively, realizing that despite their different worlds, they shared something important: kindness and courage. She offered him small sips of water and adjusted his pillow, making sure he was comfortable. He looked at her with eyes full of emotion and whispered, "Lena, your heart is more precious than anything I have ever known, and your courage will always be remembered." Lena felt tears stream down her cheeks, not from fear, but from the overwhelming feeling of being valued and recognized. She clutched the envelope he had given her tightly to her chest. She realized that the money inside was not what mattered. It was the acknowledgement of her bravery and the kindness he had shown her that moved her deeply. The man reached into his pocket again and brought out a small notebook. He handed it to her and said, "I want you to have this. It is a record of my life, my lessons, and my hopes for the future." Lena accepted it carefully, feeling the weight of the gift not just in her hands but in her heart. She opened it slowly and began to read the words inside. They were filled with wisdom, gratitude, and encouragement. She looked up at him, her eyes wide with wonder. He whispered softly, "Lena, you have the power to change lives just by being who you are: kind, brave, and thoughtful." Lena felt a lump in her throat as she realized that the man she had helped was now giving her a gift far greater than wealth. He was giving her hope, guidance, and belief in herself. She felt tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "Thank you, sir." He smiled gently and said, "The gift is not just for you but for all the lives you will touch." Lena felt a sense of purpose filling her heart. She realized that her courage and kindness had created a bond that could not be broken, and that even the smallest acts could have the greatest impact. After spending some quiet time with him, Lena knew it was time to return home. She left the hospital feeling stronger and braver than ever. The city streets seemed different now. She noticed small acts of kindness happening all around her: people helping one another, children sharing toys, neighbors greeting each other with smiles. She realized that her small actions were part of a larger world of compassion, and she felt connected to it all. As she walked home, she imagined her mother and little brother waiting for her. She thought about how she would share the story of today, and the special gifts she had received. She felt a sense of pride and joy for her family. She arrived home, and found her mother and Amir waiting anxiously. She handed them the small coins she had earned, and shared the story of the man who had thanked her. She carefully showed them the notebook and envelope, explaining how his words of encouragement had touched her heart. Her mother hugged her tightly, and whispered, "You are a brave and wonderful child." Amir jumped up and hugged her tightly. Lena felt a deep sense of warmth and love filling her chest. As they sat together sharing a simple meal, she realized that even though their lives were modest and filled with challenges, moments like these made everything worthwhile. The afternoon passed with laughter and storytelling. Lena shared her dreams with Amir and her mother, telling them how she wanted to help others and make the world a better place. Her little brother listened with wide eyes and admiration. She felt proud to be able to inspire even him. She thought about the man she had saved and the kindness he had shown her. She realized that courage, compassion, and hope could travel far beyond wealth or status. She decided that she would continue to be brave, kind, and helpful no matter what challenges came her way. As the sun began to set, Lena sat by the window looking at the sky painted in hues of pink and orange. She hugged Amir and whispered, "One day we will make a difference together." He smiled and hugged her back, and Lena felt a quiet joy knowing that their hearts were full of hope and courage. She reflected on her journey from a small, poor girl to someone who had touched a life and been recognized for her bravery. She felt a sense of purpose that was stronger than ever, and she knew that her life, though simple, had meaning beyond measure. She held the notebook and envelope close to her chest, and whispered, "I will never forget this, and I will continue to be brave and kind." She felt the warmth of the moment fill her heart, and knew that no matter what the future held, she had the strength, courage, and kindness to face it. She looked at her mother and little brother and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for their love and support. She realized that even small actions could create ripples of hope and change in the world, and that every act of courage mattered. She whispered softly to herself, "I am Lena, and I will always be brave and helpful." The city outside her window glowed softly in the evening light, and Lena felt ready to face whatever came her way, knowing that she had the power to make a difference, not just in the life of the man she had saved, but in the lives of everyone she met. Her tears were not of sadness but of joy, hope, and deep fulfillment. She felt her heart expand with love and courage, and knew that the story of her life had only just begun. She whispered one last time, "I will continue to be kind and brave, and help those in need," and the warmth of that promise filled her heart with happiness and strength. She knew that tomorrow and every day after would be another chance to shine and make a difference in the world.